We are on episode 10 of Fear Itself. This one's called Chance, named after our main character, whose name is also Chance. Chance Miller, that is. And Chance Miller is getting ripped off. He's been promised $45,000 for this vase that he had at his house by an antique salesman by the name of Walter. However, once he brings that vase to the antique shop, well, what do you know? All of a sudden they pull up Pawn Stars and lowballing him.
Give you $5,000 for it.
5? Well, that's significantly different than what you said before.
See this marking right here? That means it's from the 1800s. Common mistake.
Now, if you look at the tagline of this episode, it says Chance Miller is a down-on-his-luck guy whose luck goes even worse when he finds himself dealing with his evil doppelganger, which might make you think this is an episode about a doppelganger, but it really isn't. That does come into play later, but honestly, I feel like that part is kind of tacked on. Really, this is about a guy who's dealing with an antique salesman and getting ripped off, and how he ends up dealing with this. The first half of the episode is quite good, and then once kind of the weird doppelganger thing comes into play, it really just rears off into subpar land. It starts off in decent land and goes into subpar land. Because at first this is really a crime story. You see, Chance doesn't want to be ripped off. Who would want to be ripped off? And so he gives him a left and a right and finds himself in a situation that we see a lot in movies where he accidentally, by complete fault of his own, ends up, possibly killing Walter. We get an I know what you did last summer scenario where he has this dead body. He doesn't know what to do. He didn't exactly mean to kill him. He just got so pissed off at him because he was really looking forward to that $45,000. So this part is quite good. We have a scene where a cop comes in and he has to hide the dead body. So all this is going fine and seems like a normal crime story.
You had a smoke detector go off?
Yeah,
Anybody else in there?
You're worried about the password thing, aren't you? I just started working here, and the owner, he left for the weekend, for the holiday, you know?
And really, the supernatural twist they start putting into this episode is completely unnecessary. They should have just continued going along with him hiding the dead body and sneaking around. That would have been fine enough, but they thought maybe that wasn't unique or clever enough. So Chance is the good guy. Well, kind of the good guy. And his doppelganger is definitely the evil one. His doppelganger is following him around in this antique shop and telling him to kill this cop that's sneaking around. And then later on tries to kill his wife. But I just don't really like these type of stories that much, because you can probably see where this is going. You have two scenarios. Either he doesn't actually have a doppelganger and he's just making this up in his own head and he's the one doing all this violence, or there actually is an evil doppelganger, in which case we're given no context to how he appeared, how he would be able to defeat this doppelganger, if it's from another universe, anything like that. And it seems like in this episode is making this up in his own mind, and he himself is the violent one doing all these violent actions and then blaming it on this, I hate saying this dumb term, doppelganger. Imaginary friend, imaginary clone of himself. He leaves the antique shop and goes home to his wife and finds out that actually, somehow, in his pocket, he actually does have the $45,000. And you see a scene where actually none of this violence even happened. He didn't kill Walter, and he actually just traded this vase in and got $45,000. Is that what really happened? Who knows? And then his wife walks in a kind of funny scene, and she starts freaking out because he has in his hand 2 fingers. Now, it does seem like she's a little far away, that she'd be able to see these 2 small fingers kind of in his hand. Also, this is where you gotta play it off a little cool, Chance. Just pretend like this is like a prosthetic, or just be like, oh no, this is like a rabbit foot, or these aren't real. He doesn't play it off cool, and the doppelganger beats up his wife and he gets arrested. So that's pretty much the episode of Chance. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. I do like kind of the first part, continue with him sneaking around this antique shop. The cop comes, he then has to hide the body from the cop. Maybe he kills the cop, maybe he lets him go. Just doing more of a crime story rather than this silly clone of himself just popping in and out, saying something evil and then going away. We're given no context. You can interpret it two ways, but it doesn't really matter. Both work equally well. And that's why I don't really like these stories. They pretty much always follow this pattern. It's not something like Fight Club, which actually leads you to believe that this alter ego, Tyler Durden, is a separate character. Because, he doesn't look like an exact clone of Edward Norton. That's a better way to do these stories, where you have someone who's not just a complete clone of yourself. It's a complete clone of yourself. It's either he's imagining it, or really, it was Chance the entire time. This doppelganger doesn't even exist. He's just imagining it. It's all a dream. It's all a dream. Next up is a really good episode, Spirit Box, with Anna Kendrick. That deals with two girls that use a Ouija board, but it goes a lot of different directions. She starts getting stalked by this guy, and it's got a really good twist ending that I actually think makes sense and actually works out well. And when you watch the episode over, you go, oh, there were tons of clues on how this twist was going to come about. Unlike Chance. Check out our playlist for all the episodes in order of Fear Itself, Monsters, and Tales from the Dark Side. See ya.